We all walk every day. But what if I told you that the speed of your step is telling a hidden story? A story that's not just about getting from point A to point B, but about your health and how well you're aging. So today, we're going to dig into the surprising science behind the power in your step.
So let me ask you this. What if your walking pace was a kind of crystal ball for your future health? I know it sounds a little out there, maybe like science fiction, but a whole lot of research is suggesting it's actually one of the most important clues we have. In fact, it's so important that a lot of doctors and clinicians are now calling it the sixth vital sign. They're putting it right up there with things we all know, like blood pressure, heart rate, and temperature. So why? What makes your walking pace so incredibly important? Okay, so the fancy term for this is gait speed. And really, all that means is how fast you walk without thinking about it, just your natural pace. What makes it so powerful is that it's a super sensitive, totally non-invasive way to get a snapshot of your overall health. It's a simple test, but with really profound implications. Now, researchers have zeroed in on a really specific number, and that number is 0.8 meters per second. You can almost think of it like a warning light on your car's dashboard. When an older adult's usual walking speed dips below this mark, it starts to signal a much higher risk for a whole bunch of health problems.
And we're not talking about small things here. The risks are pretty serious. A slower walking speed is linked to a higher chance of frailty, a greater risk of falls, and even cognitive decline. It's also a predictor for hospitalization and cardiovascular events. It can even predict higher costs for long-term care. So this isn't just some trivial number. It's a key predictor of a person's independence and quality of life down the road.
Okay, so that naturally leads to the big question, right? If walking slowly is a sign of trouble, what's actually causing the slowdown in the first place? Well, a major study set out to find that exact answer. So what are the secret ingredients that keep us moving at a healthy clip as we get older? A really fascinating study of over 1,200 older adults in Bilbao, Spain, gives us some incredibly powerful clues. So these researchers, they looked at a ton of different factors, but it really boiled down to just three main things that significantly predicted how fast people walked. First, age. No big surprise there. Second was balance, which totally makes sense. But then there was the big one, relative power. And what's just as interesting is what wasn't on the list. Grip strength. For a long time, we've used grip strength as a measure of overall health, but here, it wasn't a significant predictor. It turns out it wasn't about raw strength. It was all about power.
Okay, but wait. Strength, power, aren't they kind of the same thing? Well, not exactly. Think of it like this. Strength is the absolute maximum force your muscles can create, kind of like a big tow truck that can pull a massive load. But power is how quickly you can create that force. It's more like a race car exploding off the starting line. It's force combined with speed.
And this is the real kicker. The reason why focusing on power is so critical, research shows that we lose our muscle power earlier and even faster than we lose our raw strength. It's one of the first things to go, which makes it a much more sensitive marker of how we're aging. To walk well, you have to generate force quickly, over and over again with every single step.
But the story doesn't end there. The Bilbao study had this really weird twist in the data, a surprise that came from looking at where people lived. So get this. The researchers found something that it didn't make sense at first. When they mapped out all their data, they saw that the people living in lower-income neighborhoods actually had significantly higher leg power than those in the wealthier areas. Now, this is the complete opposite of what you usually see in health studies, where more money often equals better health outcomes.
So what on earth was going on here? Well, the researchers had a pretty cool hypothesis. It turns out that a lot of Bilbao's lower-income neighborhoods were built on some pretty steep hills. They figured that just navigating this challenging environment every single day, walking up and down slopes, climbing stairs, was basically acting like unintentional, built-in power training. It was preserving their muscle function without them even realizing it.
And that clue from the real world, from the hills of Bilbao, is huge. It suggests we don't necessarily need a fancy gym or complicated equipment to build the kind of power that really matters. Which, of course, brings us to a simple, home-based solution. So that begs the question, right? If just living on a hilly street can build this kind of functional power, can we bottle that up? Can we copy that Bilbao effect with a super simple exercise we can do right at home? Well, a second study set out to do just that. And the way they tested this was just genius in its simplicity. Participants just did basic stepping exercises on a single stair in their home, all while wearing a weighted vest to add a bit of a challenge.
Yep, that's literally it. It was a low-volume, easy-to-do program where they just gradually increased the difficulty over time. So the big moment. Did this super simple do-it-at-home exercise actually work? The results? Wow. They were nothing short of remarkable.
In just 6 weeks, that's it. People saw their lower limb power shoot up by an average of 11%. This is a direct boost to the exact thing, power, that the Bilbao study told us was so incredibly important for keeping a healthy walking speed.
But okay, a number is just a number. Did it actually make a difference in their daily lives? You bet it did. The time it took them to climb a flight of stairs dropped by 9%. That is a real, tangible improvement in an everyday activity, proving that the training had a real-world impact. And that is what this is all about. Improving your muscle power isn't just about some abstract number or getting stronger for the sake of it. It's about staying capable. It's about being able to climb those stairs, carry your groceries, and live independently. Gains like these are a direct investment in your future self. So it turns out your walking pace really is telling a story about your health, written with every single step. The science is showing us that muscle power is one of the main characters in that story. So the only question left is, what are you going to write in your next chapter?